Everyone, it is June 1, 2022, and you're watching the Philippine Market Update here on Awesome 10X with me, Nikki, and let's begin. Today's topic in the Philippine market is simply discussing the valuation of the upcoming ASLAG IPO. So I entitled today's topic, Renewable Energy Opportunities in the Philippines. We're going to be discussing the ASLAG IPO, how to value, and the methods that I'll be employing. And obviously, we will be roughly touching on the Philippine listed companies in the renewable energy space. That would have to be ACEN, SPNEC, Aboitiz Power, and comparisons versus the world. The category is growth and dividend yield, renewable energy and utilities. I will have a lot of assumptions in my analysis, and we'll take a look on whether it's cheap, it's fairly valued, and so on. So a few things. I personally believe that coming into 2022, we are on the cusp of a global decarbonization megatrend that could last about 30 to 40 years. Actually, that's more than a decade ahead of us. And one of the best ways to play that global decarbonization trend with a lot of massive growth opportunities is in the renewable energy sector, i.e. investing in all things renewable. It doesn't have to be just solar. It could be nuclear. It could be wind. It could be even, mostly those two, although there are others like hydrogen gas, hydrogen fuel cells. Those are a few. Now, renewable contracts, in my view, are indexed to inflation, i.e. when oil prices go up, the market can actually pay a higher price towards renewable energy. And so it is actually an inflationary resistant sector. Now, there are companies that are behaving like utilities depending on what sector and what type of cycle they are already in. Some are actually invested because of the consistent dividend streams, around 3 to 5% for those that are already in the worldwide scale, with a 30 to 50% dividend policy that some Philippine renewable energy companies seem to want to employ. Of course, we were looking for the experts in the power generation to build out in this analysis sizable solar farms. We can see that you may have expertise and you would have land and capital, and that would be perfect for an investment. Now, we would only invest obviously in strong IRR and high payback and very little payback period. In our analysis here in today's topic, we are looking at a 40%, 27 to 40% IRR amongst solar projects that we look at from a net present value perspective, NPV, and lower than 5-year payback period for us to consider safety in investing. So looking into the prospectus of ASLAG IPO, if you're first time here, you can check out the Awesome 10X take on the ASLAG IPO. This is the part 2. That was just last week. We discussed part 1. So this is a prelude to trying to value what is the ASLAG value proposition. So ASLAG, this IPO, has discussed that they already have 2 related operating power plants, and you can see that so far they reported in their prospectus that for the last 3 financial years from 2019 to 2021, just to give you a preview, it already has been selling electricity, and the earnings from that sale of electricity is roughly 450 million pesos. So these are the selling rates. You could see that it's from the annual generated electricity from 2015 to 2021 when ASLAG 1 operated. These were the actual applied fit rates, whereas these were the pro forma fit rates. So as this, since the commercial commission, that would mean 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they have generated a total electricity of 93.8 gigawatt hours. For those who aren't aware of gigawatt hours, 1 gigawatt is 1,000 megawatt. And in a tariff rate of 8.69, let's now go to our Excel sheet, no? If they said they have generated 93.8 gigawatts, so that would be 93,800 megawatts. You have to multiply that with 1,000 for the kilowatt and multiply that with a tariff fit rate of, let's say, 8 pesos 69 cents per kilowatt hour. That tells you that over the life of about 2015 to 2021, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years, that's 815 million pesos. So divide mo lang yan by 7. You're looking at about 120 million pesos worth of sales of electricity for this plant, for the ASLAG 1. But of course, ASLAG 1 isn't gonna just churn out electricity for only 6 years. It will churn out for 20 years. So even if you're just computing the electricity generated by the power plant, in this case, it is a solar power plant, you can just multiply that, wherein even at the 8.69 rate for the next 20 years, we'll have that one times 20. That would give you about 2.4 billion of revenues. Now, usually, if you look carefully in their analysis, in their income statements, they do have to say that 40% of that is profits, i.e. 60% comes from depreciation, interest, debt, expenses. Most of these ASLAG plans of finance 30% equity, 70% bank loans. So here you're seeing that if 40% of that times 0.4, you can see that the actual income is about 930 million pesos over the lifespan. Let's multiply that again, equals, okay, using the gross margins and the net profit margins that they've discussed in their actual operations. You're seeing this one net profit, no? Net profits over 20 years time, because a solar plant, you see, wait lang nakikita niyo ba yung Excel file ko? Nakita naman, no? Oh, yes, nakita naman. Okay, let me share again. Okay, so yeah, I'm trying to analyze the value of the ASLAG using some NPV, present values. So hindi ko alam kung nakikita niyo yung Excel ko here. But here, 1 gigawatt is 1,000 megawatt. I've looked at some US world values. They say that 69,000 megawatts, or basically 69 megawatts, is equivalent to 9 million homes. Now, the Philippines, of course, has 100 million homes. So, yung 10 megawatts, it's not a lot of homes that you can address, no? Mga ilang million homes lang yon. Okay, it tells you a few things as well. We're talking about pesos here. 931 million pesos of profit on ASLAG 1 over 20 years. Now, 6 years na yan. So, you calculate the next 14 years. So, 931 times 14 divided by 20. Right? Kasi remaining life na lang yan eh. Nakuha na yung profits niyan. Nag-distribute na rin sila ng dividends for that. So, you can only achieve 650 million pesos of lifetime earnings for the ASLAG 1. Okay? Now, let's take a look at more financials in the ASLAG prospectus, no? So that's electricity sales. I'm using a 40% net profit margin assumption because that is what I've seen on the ASLAG 1 and 2 financials being shown in their prospectus, no? All right, so since 2021, ASLAG 1 generated electricity sales of 14 gigawatt hours, representing 43% of the company's total generation of 32.7 gigawatt hours. So let's discuss yung 2021. No? So if we're gonna discuss 2021, they said 32.7 gigawatt hours. Kasi dalawa na yan, ASLAG 1, ASLAG 2 already operating, no? Okay, so 32.7, let's multiply that. 32,700 megawatts. Tapos times mo ng 1,000 kasi times kilowatt hour, 0.69 gawin mo. Times mo ng, well actually, since gawin na lang natin 14 years, no? Kasi assume natin na 14 years left life. Kasi ASLAG 1, ASLAG 2. Yung ASLAG 1 na una, ASLAG 2, I think there were a year or something. Check natin sa prospectus. But you are seeing here a lifetime sales revenue of about 4 billion pesos on the ASLAG 1 and 2. Yung remaining life. I'm using 14 years remaining life times we have to multiply 40% yung net profit. So over the course of life, you are expected, if bibilhin mo yung profits niya, 1.6 billion pesos. Of course, hindi natin ni net present value yan because if we did the net present value, you will not receive naman 1.6 billion pesos today, diba? Some of the revenues will come on year 10, year 12, year 14, And if I net present value that, that would come out to be less than 1.6 billion pesos. But that also assumes 8.69 per kilowatt hour and makes an assumption of what? 40% gross profits lang, net profit margin. And I'm using 8.69 per kilowatt hour, which could actually become a very low base rate, given they can do a WESM, they can do increases through fixed inflation. So if you think about it, just by these numbers, 1.6 billion pesos, kahit pa i-depreciate natin yan, i-NPV natin, we are looking at profits of about at least nasa mga 1 billion pesos for ASLAG 1 and 2. Of course, may 3, 4, 5 pa. Okay, so that's what we can see on operations already of ASLAG 1. Let's read these further. No? It says here that in 2021, the ASLAG 1 applied the original FIT rate of 9.68 per kilowatt hour. If the adjusted FIT rate of 11 pesos 67 per kilowatt hour had been applied during the period, pro forma revenues would have reached 165.9 million pesos in 2021. Take note, yung ASLAG mga FIT rates, that is feed-in tariffs, that's decided upon by the government to assure the investors or the ones that are deploying the capital na may earnings siya and magiging NPV positive over the course of life. Now, with a restatement in adjusted FIT rates to reflect that, you can see ASLAG 1 reported a 45% increase in revenues to about 188 million pesos as it booked the FIT receivables from 2016 to 2020 with the ERC resolution adjusting that FIT rate. So, tumataas yung FIT rates, tumataas yung revenue. So, actually, yung 1.5 billion pesos na yun, I only multiplied, remember, 8.69 per kilowatt hour. That was the lowest that ASLAGs was getting before. Nag-increase yan, nagiging 9 peso per kilowatt hour, 11 peso per kilowatt hour over time. So they were able to adjust it with the Energy Regulator Commission. So that means tumataas yung revenues. Therefore, if you include that based on the original FIT rate, tataas yung receivables. If you exclude the FIT receivables, ASLAG 1 averaged a full year revenue of 135 million pesos. In 2019 to 2021, the low was 130, the high was 138.9. But if you include the ERC-approved adjusted FIT rates, the revenues would average 156 million over the last 3 full years. So we're using that to tell you na I'm using a lot of margin of safety kasi for investing, we have to use the lowest assumptions possible. Hindi tayo pwede puro best case. Now, the ASLAG 2, how was it invested upon? Okay, this was the actual investment in debt terms. You could see that they acquired the land for 70 million pesos. They developed the project, may mga development costing land, 26 million pesos. They had a project implementation of 730 million with a total of 833 million pesos. The total investment per kilowatt hour is 63,000 pesos, KWP. Now, may utang sila involved dyan. For that 830 million pesos, they funded it with 250 million peso equity and a loan amount of 650 million. So that means 900 million pesos yung ASLAG 2. Roughly, nasa mga 12 megawatts. We have it in ASLAG here. We can see in the prospectus kung gaano kalaki yung plant na yon. Actually, nandito yun sa slide ko before. Let me just get it again. Oh, wait. Teka. In my previous in the previous Awesome 10X Take That last week, we discussed the IPO of ASLAG, ASLAG IPO. Nandito yun yung file na yun. Ito yun. So 10 megawatt, 13 megawatts. No, this was in the prospectus. I'm using all the numbers in the prospectus, guys. ASLAG 1, 2, 133,000 square meters. That would be 133 hectares. Tama ba? I think 1,000 square meter is 1 hectare. So this is 133 hectares. They were able to have a capacity of 13 megawatts. This one was funded 900 million pesos. Okay? So, okay, yung 900 million pesos na yan, let's take a look again on the numbers. Let's use the numbers here. So it was funded 70% kauchit laksa, di ba? So 70% loan, 30% equity, a loan term of 12 years, principal moratorium 2 years, interest rate of 6%, with quarterly principal payments of 16.25 million pesos. Tama ba? What's 6% of 650 million? Laklak sheet CD. CD divided by 4, 10 million. Yeah, so my interest, so yan. So they are paying interest plus principal. So they are lumiliit yung loan as time goes by. So ano yan, may capital payments, no? So for their loans. All right, so the actual total investment amounted to 834 million pesos, financing provided by BPI, term of 12 years, grace period of 2 years, initial interest rate of 6%. Okay, so the following table displays operational parameters, financial returns of RASLAG 2. These are the actual results na ha. So the NPV is 550 million pesos on RASLAG 2 using 10% yung pang NPV, yung pang discounting rate, no, when you're doing your CAPM, your capital asset pricing model. All right, so the equity IRR is about 27%. Their projected IRR is 16.37. Payback period 5 years. Annual operational cost, they're spending 18.8 million, so roughly 20 million pesos. Annual redemption 153 million pesos. All right, power plant size 13 megawatts. Annual operation cost per kWp 1,432 pesos. Annual specific yield 1,480 kilowatt hour per kWp. Feed-in tariff that they use was 8.69, and they're saying that the period is 25 years, annual degradation, so nagde-depreciate yung planta, 0.7%. So RASLAG 2 is embedded within the distribution network of AEC, tapped in the 13,800 V line of AEC, passing along NLEX, the same as RASLAG 1. AEC acts as the metering service provider of the plant in accordance with the feed-in tariff guidelines. Solar power plant has been in continuous operations for more than 6 years since it was commissioned in late 2015. So parehas, si 1 and 2 was both 2015. So 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 6 years in operation, tama. 14 years left life from 2022 to 2036 kasi plus 14 years. Okay. So full year until 2036. At 2037, shutdown na yun. I'm just using 20 years even if they use 25 years in their assessment. Nasa 20 to 25 years yung planta. Okay, here we can clearly see all the actual revenues. You're seeing here the gross, no? Ito yung mga ito yung sinasabi nila na 32.7 gigawatt hours if you combine 1 and 2. So the gross energy, the net energy, all the plant losses, since there will be some losses on the nawawalan ng energy because ng brownout, nagkaroon ng typhoon, yun. Okay, so capacity factor, average operating hours. It has consistently generated electricity within the plus minus 5% power generation guidelines and assumptions. Overall performance has been outstanding. Ating system energy production, actual annual, so nasa mga 18,420,000 kilowatt hour. So if you want to you want to do an NPV here, gagawin mo lang dyan is 18 million, no? So 18 million times 8.69 mo na lang ulit per kilowatt hour. That would be your revenues. Ang dami kasing zero. Hilo ako sa zero. Ayan, 18 million. Ayan, nasa 150 million. So yung revenues nila. Every year na yan. Consistent naman. The EPC contractor's guarantee. All right. You can see ngayon na from RASLAG 1 to may experience na sila, di ba? How about the 3, 4, 5? What I like about the 3 is that they're already saying here na mas mura siya from a cost per kilowatt hour. And I'll discuss all about the cost of creating solar plants. The beautiful thing is that solar panels have been decreasing in price 50% over the last 3 years. And over the last 10 years, it fell about 90% down from 2010 to 2020. Therefore, if you're gonna construct a solar farm 2020 to 2030, it will cost you cheaper. You'll notice kanina nakita mo 63,000. Ito naging 46,000 na lang yung kilowatt hours, yung cost, no? So look at this, land acquisition also naging cheaper. So depende yan, a lot of factors to tell you how good a solar plant will be would be how much the estimated project cost, magkano to develop it. You'll see here 24 million, 113 million, 676 million, 830 million. So yung kanina, nasa mga roughly nandun din 833 million. Tapos nag-utang sila sa mga naging 900 million. You'll see that for RASLAG 3, the project cost of 830 million including tax transfer fee, they already loaned it. Naggawa rin nila to with BPI. Equity amount 250, amount loan 600 million, 10 years, 10 years. So ito, utang nila 10 years, yung kanina 12-year loan, same 6% subject repricing. They're paying quarterly principal payments of 18.75. So multiply natin yun guys 18.75 times 4, 18.75 times 4, that's 75 million times 10, that's about 750 million. Bayad na nila yung utang plus interest. So ganun sila magbayad. Yung principal payment nila, ina-amortize lang nila over the span of time. Okay, on September 29, 2021, BPI already released 81 million, followed by 316 million on December 24, 2021. This is used to pay the company on local construction of ASLAG 3. They've already said that this ASLAG 3 is starting operations this 2022, May 2022. Ngayon, June na. So I expect na nag-ooperate na yon. And since kaka-start lang naman yan, June 1, we would assume na 6 months lang yung mako-contribute ni ASLAG 3 versus, of course, 2022. So, kaka-umpisa pa lang baka nga hindi pa 6 months talaga yan baka mga siguro 5 months of operations kasi maybe the first month may konting kinks. And how big would this third plant be? Mas malaki siya. You'll see that this is under construction, but they said it's going to operate naman by this year. So if June yan, as planned, let's say June 30, sabihin na natin 5 months worth of operation, this 18,000 megawatt, this 18 megawatt would produce roughly, so gawin natin, multiply na lang natin. No? So yung isa, i-ratio proportional lang natin. Yung 13 over 18, di ba? Times mo ng 150 million times 5 over 12. So yan yung rough na magiging revenues generated ng ASLAG 3 for the next 5 months. I'm just assuming na ratio proportion. Siguro naman halos pare-parehas yung solar generated dito sa ASLAG 3 with ASLAG 1 and 2. So we can actually also assume na ASLAG 4 and 5 medyo ganun din. Assuming na halos same yung project cost wherein you'll notice actually cheaper si ASLAG 3 kasi it cost them 830 million pesos to produce 18 megawatts of installed capacity versus itong ASLAG 2, it cost them 830 million pesos rin, but that was 6 years ago. Parang cellphone guys ang solar power plants. As cheap, it becomes cheaper and cheaper, tapos more powerful pa. Yun yung magandang mechanism ng solar plants. I'll show you the industry metrics, why we like businesses like these, kasi tumataas yung IRR mo as time goes by, di ba? You'll notice dati ang pangit ng cellphone mo, parang iPhone 1 versus iPhone 10. Pero same price, di ba? So, tumaas yung capacity, tapos actually maganda pa yung presyo ng feed-in tariffs. So, mas profitable yung mga latter power plants versus the first two. But you could see marami na siyang strengths, no? Enjoying attractive fit rates already for so far, no? All right, let's look at this. So mas mababa yung cost, I like that. The following table, okay, tapos na rin yan, bayad na yan. So let's discuss muna industry versus comparing it to the listed companies. All right, as of 2020, there are several reports already saying that solar and onshore wind are the cheapest energy sources, no? So a lot of people are going to solar, not just because it is helping the world, although that is the lofty goal, but it also compares really cheap versus fossil fuels. So from a standpoint of the world, if I'm gonna get the same energy, why not do it clean na, cheap pa? So the answer has been the cost of solar photovoltaic has fallen to the point that it became 0.1 per kilowatt hour. So bumababa talaga yung prices. These are the really big factors, no? From 2010 to 2020, solar cost has dropped by a factor of 5. So that is from all the ones tracking, no? International energy resources na yan. The utility scale solar price per kilowatt hour from 40 cents it fell 10 cents and baka maging 7 cents or 6 cents yan over the next 5 to 10 years. That is good. If you wonder how did solar cost drop, this was a function of mga PV panels by China. So you have China to thank for that. look at this, 2015, solar is 1% of global electricity. Some people are saying that that 10 cents can go down to as low as mga nasa 5 cents in the next 2030. When solar reaches 2% of 2015 global electricity demand, nandito yan. Parang cellphone, guys. Naging mura ang cellphone over time, naging mas powerful because of hindi Moore's Law. Although, yeah, people like to talk about Moore's Law. It's just really economies of scale. The more people are buying millions of solar panels, syempre, the more demand, the better the manufacturing scale, the more profitable, the more revenues for the solar panel makers. If you're wondering where the cheapest solar panel makers and the more efficient ones are, it's mostly in China. 86% of market share is coming from China. So although these solar plants never discussed where they source it, my sense is that if 86% cheapest of market share is in China, malamang binibili nila sa Jinko Solar, Trina Solar, Longi Solar, Hanwha Q Cells, Canadian Solar, Maxion Solar. Yun lang naman, guys. Kung magpapa-solar panel kayo, malamang Chinese brand yan. Or kung talagang gusto mo, medyo mahal, First Solar, American First Solar. Pero that was 50% more expensive. So malamang these aren't gonna use American solar panels. They're gonna buy from Chinese solar panels. Yan yon. The average solar, medium sunlight. We have to look at this. Lowest cost solar sun is location. If you are in a desert land like mga Arizona, yan sa US, Texas, yan, mainit dyan, Middle East, United Arab Emirates, they have vast lands na mura lang, desert lang yon. So the cost of land is cheap. Land development also zero, malamang halos walang land development cost or very negligible. So they are the lowest cost. Kaya ngayon, kung 10 cents yung average, nasa 6 cents sila, 40% cheaper. Ito yung dito ka nagkakatalo, guys, yung land mo and if you are really sunny location. In terms of sunniest location, sabi naman ni ASLAG, they have yung meron silang computation na parang 5.5% yung level of irradiance, which is higher daw sa Central Luzon versus other parts of the country. So I think nasa average solar si Central Luzon. Hindi siya lowest cost. Nandito siya sa 10 cents or baka nasa 9 cents ngayon yan. But since 2022 na, nandito na yan, bumababa na yung solar panel cost nila eh. So mura na yan yung development. This is the future model of solar prices, assuming 16% cost reduction of new solar electricity per doubling of scale. Solar costs unsubsidized, natural gas prices do not include carbon pollution externalities. So of course, everyone knows that the solar industry today is being subsidized by governments. Now, that means na if it's subsidized, how is that possible? Net income tax holiday. For instance, if you look at ASLAG IPO, nakasulat sa prospectus may 7-year net income tax holiday. Hopefully, matuloy-tuloy yun kasi the government has to help also the investors to make a good profit, no? So yan, I'm seeing na it says here 5 doublings from 200 gigawatts in 2015 to 6,400 gigawatts at a future point. So it's very difficult to estimate in the next 20 years, but this is what they're doing: 200, 400, 800, 600, 30, 200, 400, 2 raised to the 5, guys. So they're expecting magdo-double ang gigawatts capacity ng mundo to the point that because you are doubling demand for all those solar panels, you can get 15 to 20% cheaper cost of solar panels every year, and that hits your goals, no, for the world. Ito yung natural gas electricity price na cost, nasa mga 7 cents. For those who are wondering, natural gas, I think in the Philippines, the liquefied natural gas is mga Aboitises and first gens. Okay, this is cost of residential solar energy, pababa siya. The trend is good for the ones that are investing in solar. Also here, I took a look at yung mga studies worldwide, unsubsidized electricity retail cost on site. What if nagso-solar panels kayo at home, no? Large, high, close energy, easy, strong, size of community, density, population. Maraming nagsasabi na if hindi daw nag-subsidize, mataas pa rin kasi national grids, you have to spend, the government has to spend on national grid. May mga net metering policies. So marami pang kailangan, no, ecosystem-wise, to really make it possible that we can just install solar panels at home if it's really cheap. Why am I discussing this? Because right now we're talking about centralized solar systems, but there could be in the future, maybe 10 to 20 years from now, Also, what you call the decentralized solar, maybe not in the Philippines, I'm not sure, but it's good to know what's happening in the world. The decentralized nature of electricity means na you can just be a virtual power plant at home. Yung bahay mo is a solar power plant essentially, or your big malls or big roofs, di ba? So the rooftop revolution, solar home systems yan. So by 2020, onshore wind, solar PV is a less expensive source of new electricity than the cheapest fossil fuel alternative. That's IRENA. Carbon reduction is universal. It is still a long path to meeting carbon-free targets globally. You're seeing that everyone has been targeting the net zero, the transition to decarbonization. California is now 32% net zero carbon. New York, 28%. EU, 38%. 37% UK, 19% for India. China, 28%. I'm not sure how the Philippines is, parang nasa 1% or something on the net zero carbon goals, or 2%. But we are trying to do that, diba? The world wants us to also, we want to support climate change solutions. So current renewable generation, ito yung mga target. So malayo pa. That also tells you that if you were just to assume the industry growth, when I talk about the massive growth opportunity, you will see that it's a universal growth opportunity. This isn't just a Philippine thing, but a global thing. Now, obviously, a lot of corporations have been very ambitious, and they have also just like the government who has that fixed tariffs, yung feed-in tariff rates, a lot of corporations worldwide are also fixed payers. Example, if I am Meralco or corporations, no, like if I am a planta, let's assume that I am San Miguel Corporation, I would have an electricity bill, correct? So I can just power up my entire factories I don't know kung malapit yung mga San Miguel power plants in these solar areas. But let's assume na may mga malalaking companies that near these areas. That is what US companies, corporations are doing. Amazon, Walmart, Nike, they pledge 100% renewable. Microsoft, H&M, lahat yan, iba-iba kung ano yung targets nila. Mga Facebook, like they already are seeing na, okay, I'll buy $1 billion worth of electricity from you. I'll buy $2 billion of electricity from you. That's good because you just supply and somebody already is the demand. Bale, I have 9 million homes. Parang if I'm Facebook, I have so many homes to buy. O sige, I'll buy 9 million homes of electricity. We call them financiers or wholesale payers. There are several companies worldwide. One company that I'd like you to see that is listed worldwide is Brookfield Renewable Partners. Utilities pero renewable. So this one is listed abroad in New York Stock Exchange. Why is it considered utilities? Because they are generating power from all sources. Actually, this is not just solar. They have hydro power, they have solar, they have wind. So for the last 10 years, just to give you a snapshot, from about $13, it reached $50, it's $35. Medyo 3x siya over the last 10 years. How do we value this? All right, market cap ni BEP is $9.78 billion. The sales is 4.1B. So from a price to sales perspective, it's trading 2 times price to sales. So may generating capacity na yan. Nag-generate na siya ng sales electricity. So the market is paying it like a utility provider. Book value per share, 16.5. They're giving dividends of $1.28 per share. Dividends, 3.6%. A lot of these renewable utilities are being, siguro most of them are patterned after a Meralco because talagang utilities, but they are also investing. They've been a dividend player. Just to give you I'll give you a lot of ways kasi that are renewable energy providers, producers in the world for us to make good comparisons to value ASLAG. So chill muna kayo kasi baka medyo nakikiyos kayo na, teka, ASLAG tayo, tapos ba tayo nag-Brookfield? Sandali lang, mag-uusap tayo ng SPNEC, ng ACEN. It's a long presentation, but bear with me. Brookfield naman has been giving 5% dividend growth for 10 years straight, 11 years. So para siyang nag-REIT style, no? Because for instance, sabihin na lang natin si ASLAG, it has income, di ba? So like they can issue 50% dividend policy. So ito, si Brookfield, nag-dividend play yan. Over the last 10, 11 years of existence, it's been paying $1 per year. Actually, meron akong data point na yan. So, yung sa $30, pag hindi mo dinagdag yung dividend, yung 13 actually, nagbayad na yun ng $12. I.e., for the last 10 years, binayaran ka, fully paid ka through dividends. And then, aside from that, because ang dami pa nga niyang projects, nag-grow siya ng projects, they can pay consistent dividends for the next 10 years. It acts something like a PLDT, if you ask me. Kasi for the Filipinos out there who know Philippine telecom providers like PLDT and Globe, PLDT and Globe, if you bought PLDT example in the early part of the year, like 100 pesos lang si PLDT. Bakit si PLDT naging 2,000 pesos over the span of how many years na ba? More than 25 years. It's because it's been paying dividend and it's been growing from what? 1 million mobile phone subscribers to 30 million households, tapos may broadband connectivity. I.e., if you have growth and stable dividends, you have capital appreciation and dividend growth. So do not just look at the stock price. It's double. It's double income for you. May interest income and my growth appreciation. I need to share that kasi looking at the ASLAG IPO, it looks like their financial profile, they can grow, but they also want to provide dividends, reading from the prospectus. So if ganun yung style nila, stable growth and stable dividend, you should expect it to be flocked upon by major institutional investors who have a habit to be like a PLDT investor. Para siyang telecom na may konting growth, or actually hindi nga konting growth, super special growth, spectacular growth, and the stable dividend. That's why we are discussing this, kasi it's one of the best place to discuss. Benefits from contractually secured recurring cash flow from its renewable power assets, strong financial profile, financial flexibility to grow its renewable energy portfolio, and its dividend. And you'll notice, guys, nagkaroon ng mga recessions, how come Brookfield Energy is still very strong? Look at it, nasa strength yan. Mataas pa yan. Actually, pwede yan bumalik ng $40. There is a reason why it has held, it has held the growth, because safe siya sa inflation. Look at this, for the last 11 years, EBITDA dividend payout ratio, 2009, they paid $1 per share, 1.1, 1.26, 1.33. So over time, tinataasan pa niya yung dividend. Minsan $2 siya magbigay, 2019, tapos $1.32. So actually, if you bought it since IPO, it paid you more than enough sa dividends alone, tapos nag-price appreciation pa. Of course, there was even a time na nag-$50 pa yan. So yung $10,000 mo, binayaran ka niya ng ilan to? 1, 2, 3. Sabihin na natin, 11 plus a few pa yan, $15. Dividends alone paid you more than enough. So zero cost ka talaga. Plus yung price appreciation. Technically, why am I discussing these things? Ito talaga yung zero cost strategy. Binayaran ka ng dividend, tapos nag-price appreciation. Something to be, something to really want to invest, buy, and hold for decades. Ganyan yung style ng mga good companies. Dividend cash flow, no? Sa dividends pa lang, paid out ka na. So, yun, di ba? Yan yung magandang move. Yung $10,000 mo, binigyan ka $14,500 dividends. And continuing yan. 2020 until 2030, bayad pa ulit ng $15,000 yan. And then, syempre, the stock price, because of very low interest rates worldwide, a lot of people will continue to pay a premium to Brookfield. Okay, so look at that. Tsaka tingnan mo to, per unit distribution, ito yung BEP, ito yung S&P Utilities, ito yung S&P 500. BEP is Brookfield Energy Partners, no? So for the last 20 years, it outperformed the utilities index by a massive double, no? 8% lang yung binibigyan ng utilities index. S&P 500 is just 5% return kung nag-long term ka sa S&P 500. Although noong 2020, 2021, nag-move talaga ng malakas S&P 500 and then nag-drop ngayon. But okay lang pa rin. Actually, 2022, nasa mga average 10%, nasa 8% si S&P 500 index return. Pero itong si BEP, double siya. So, maganda yon. Why am I discussing this from a long-term perspective? To tell you na when you're investing in renewable energy, hindi siya pang short-term flip lang na, bili ako ng 2 peso, tapos flip ko na yan, 5 peso, 4 peso. pwede, you can flip it, but at the same time, look at it from a cash flow unit perspective. If it's gonna grow, malaki yung price appreciation, magiging zero cost yung DOS mo actually for a span of about 10 years. Yung tingin ko, if they're gonna do a 10 cents cash div per year. And if they're gonna copy what the best of the best partners in the world are doing. For instance, Brookfield, same, benefiting from increasing demand from renewable energy over the years. $150 trillion yung decarbonization over the next 3 decades. So that gives Brookfield countless investment opportunities. I know that it's not right to compare a small apple to a very big apple, but kasi ito, 69 gigawatts of clean energy. Guys, ang 69 gigawatts, that is 69,000 megawatts. We're just talking about, kahit na mag-best case scenario ka pa kay ASLAG, 25 megawatts lang siya ngayon. Ang production pipeline niya for the next 5 to 10 years is nasa 250 megawatts. Still good growth for ASLAG in the development pipeline. Pero we're comparing that from a very small to a very big. This 69 gigawatts is gonna power more than 9 million homes for 1 year, triple their current operation. They're currently operating 21,000 gigawatts. So I'll tell you why mamaya gagamitin natin ng, actually, di na mamaya, sabihin ko na sa inyo. So I did simple lang, no, para sa mga at malaman kung anong target price. Si BEP may 69,000 na pipeline construction in 5 to 10 years. So naka-construct na yan, hihintay na lang nila after 5 to 10 years, okay, operate na. Actual generation, 19,000. 21,000 yung na-build nila. Kasi just because you installed that doesn't mean that you are able to generate, di ba? So in terms of in terms of megawatts, we have to use megawatts. Malaki na talaga si BEP, kaya ang laki niyan, no? So market cap, ginamit ko billions of dollars, no? So BEP today is about $9.78 billion. So $10 billion yan. $10 billion. Magkano si ASLAG IPO? $61 million. Magkano ba ang na-generate na megawatts ni ASLAG, no? Kahit yung kahit yung current lang, 10-25, di ba? 10-15, nasa 25. Although they have a goal of operating mga nasa 250 yung goal nila in 5 to 10 years. Compare that with ACEN and SPNEC. ACEN is 18,000 long-term pipeline goal. SPNEC long-term goal 500 to 5,000. Let's not go to the 5,000 kasi I'm not sure if they're able to accomplish. I haven't seen actual generation. So dun muna tayo sa 500. Actual generation megawatts ASEN 3.8, no? Meron na siyang electricity sales. SPNEC 0. At zero, market cap ni SPNEC is $284 million. Not to this SPNEC, pero syempre, we're just comparing apples to apples. Zero kasi yung actual generation ni SPNEC. It is more speculative rather than ASEN and ASLAG. Now, tingnan na lang natin si ASEN. ASEN, 3.8 megawatts. It's being priced today at $5.4 billion, no? So, divide mo yan. So, it's being paid for every megawatt. Binabayaran siya ng 1.4 per megawatt. Tama ba? Yan yung for ASEN. Okay. So, ito, si ASLAG, pag kinumpare mo kay ASEN, isipin mo, ay, mas mahal ng konti si ASLAG, 2.44. Ito ang hirap divide mo by 0, di infinite PE price ni SPNEC, di ba? Infinite kasi wala pang earnings, wala pang sales, so infinity yung PE ratio. Now, ito, pag tinignan mo siya, i-divide mo siya, actual generation, magmumukhang sobrang mura ni BEP, no? BEP, ASLAG, ASEN. Okay, why is it na mataas yung PE ratios na binabayad per megawatt hour? Maybe it's because of the fact na nandito sa growth. Binabayaran talaga ng market ngayon yung long-term goals. ASEN wanting to hit 18,000, SPNEC wanting to hit 500 megawatts, ASLAG wanting to hit 250 megawatts, BEP wanting to hit 69,000. So yan yung mga nagkakatalo. I mean, it's not of course a very good valuation methodology, isn't it? But it helps you lang to find out, is it cheap? Is it expensive? Pag kinumpare mo si ASLAG versus SPNEC, talagang mura siya, di ba? Kasi like, infinity to zero to no? Actual generation 0. If you compare naman ASLAG to ASEN, I would argue, marami kasing potential si ASEN, but at the same time, how feasible can it grow that fast, no? Kasi 3.8 versus 18,000. Ito naman, 25 versus 250. Ang bilis to achieve ni ASLAG nito, di ba? Like they could easily, actually itong 25 na to, i-plus mo na lang yung 13, nabubuksan niya. 38 megawatts na yun additional, di ba? So, baka mas safe, baka mas tama na yung ASLAG gamitin ko yung 38, hindi lang yung 1 and 2. Kasi yung 3, malapit na mag-operate So if you compare that, nag-ooperate na rin naman yun. And medyo same pricing si ASLAG kay ACEN today. If you buy ACEN 7, ASLAG 2, nandun ka sa same halos. Pero how feasible is it for ASLAG to go 250 versus ACEN to hit 3,800 to 18,000? Diyan din nagkakatalo Maraming reasons and construction and the valuation should depend, I think, in several factors, hindi lang sa megawatts. It has a lot of things to do with, number one, may plano ba siya magbigay ng dividends, di ba? We're seeing na mataas yung possibility na ASLAG is gonna pay dividends out because they've been doing that on their own for their board of meeting. Nakasulat sa prospectus, they've been paying themselves 500 million pesos actually over the last 6 years. Nag-dividend payout yan. The following charts are illustrating na bakit yung mga BEP, for instance, Brookfield, why are they being priced in with, if you look at it, bakit si BEP, tingnan mo na lang yung Excel file na ginamit ko, ito Brookfield Energy. Bakit napakamura? You would assume, parang mura yung Brookfield. Bilhin ko na lang si Brookfield versus ASEN, SPNEC, ASLAG. I'm not saying na wag mong bilhin si BEP. Maganda nga si BEP Ayan, mukhang mura nga siya But it tells you na ang laki rin nito, di ba? These are the biggest, 69,000 megawatts yung plano nila, 69 gigawatt. Laki, no? And then ito kasi talaga paid siya in a dividend fashion. Ang laki ng dividend play. Ito kasi baka malamang for them to grow, less dividends paid para grow to hit this 250 long-term goal pipeline. Pwedeng ganun Maraming ways to skin the cat, i.e. Okay, so source of energy region. Ito yung si BEP. 5% solar, 21% wind, 74% hydro. So, dyan din nagkakatalo. Hindi siya pure play solar. So, baka pwede mo sabihin, bakit mo Nikki kinumpare sa BEP? Di naman solar si BEP, di ba? Parang 5% solar lang siya. So, possible wrong din yung apples to apples comparison. Kasi renewable energy, yes, pero iba naman yung cost. Lalo na if pure solar, pag sumobrang mura ng cost of production ng solar energy, tipaklong taas ng spike ng earnings ni solar plants, di ba? Tapos, ito. A few things to understand. Si BEP, binili niya about 2 years ago si Terraform, which is a wind and solar asset. Namili to $9 billion total power asset. One thing that I should also say is kapag bumibili ka, it means na yung ownership mo, hindi 100%. In terms of this one, 61% Brookfield ownership. Binayaran niya $3.5 billion. Binayaran niya total power assets, ganyan, how many megawatts. So tingnan mo lang, yung pagbili niya, binili niya yung 4,000 megawatt of capacity for $9 billion. So ito, tingnan natin. So kung may 4,000 megawatts ka, bibilhin ka daw niya ng $9 billion. Magkano yun? Ito, $9 billion is 9,000 million. So bumibili siya ng asset for 2.25, correct? So, okay, kung 2.25, i-2.25 mo to, divided by 1.6, you will come up with these types of valuations, $85 million. So, nasa mga 4 billion pesos yan, divided by, times 52. Sa mga 4.5 billion, 50% upside ka. Diba? So, but that only assumes, eto nga, 38 lang yung megawatts mo. Pag tumaas yung long term mo na mga pipeline, tataas din yung actual generated electricity, di ba? So, mga rough back of the envelope yan. Just to analyze how to project, the way to pay. The way to pay for a solar plant, yan, or solar and wind plant. The seto big yan nasa US, Canada, EU, others. So, this is Brookfield. Marami investors in the world, guys, globally, who will fund renewable projects. Kasi, example, Brookfield, $52 billion assets under management, 3,000 operating employees. They have funded 5,301 power generating facilities, all into wind, solar power, ganyan. So, in terms of funding, the investment community of the world, hindi lang Philippines, is gonna look on ASLAG. Kasi they're gonna compare eh. Compare nila, Brookfield, ganyan, diba? We are one of the world's largest investors in renewable power. We are generating, dito nung time na to, 19,000. Ngayon, mga nasa 21,000 na eh. Megawatts, no? Our assets are located everywhere, North, South America, Europe, India, China, diverse, hydro, wind, utility scale, solar, distributed generation, storage, other renewable technologies. When they say other renewable, pati mga fuel cells, fina-fund nila ngayon for cleaner, brighter tomorrow. Over the last 20 years, we've built $50 billion of operating assets, 18,000 megawatt development pipeline. Why am I discussing all of these, guys? The opportunities are quite immense in terms of the development pipeline. What ACEN is doing, what SPNEC is doing, what ASLAG is driving, all these three companies listed so far, the market, the world, I'm not talking about just the Philippines, is willing to invest in malaki yung return for the investors as evidenced already by BEP. They've already, over just the last 5 years, the solar business, they already have 3,000 megawatts of solar in operation and an additional nearly 10,000 megawatts of solar under development. We're just talking about 25 megawatts, 38 megawatts kay ASLAG. And it's just what, $800 million of market cap. We are buying, guys, a micro cap in a world that has big caps like BEP. Kumbaga, parang si Tesla mo tong si BEP, if I have to make a comparison. And then, ikaw, isang micro cap, which can expand very well kasi ang laki nga ng mga opportunities, not just in the world, no? Kahit sa Philippines alone. We're gonna discuss later sa Philippines pa lang on the projects, no? And then, if you look at all the utilities renewable, what's the average PE? You'll notice, bakit ito zero yung PE? Kasi some of them, hindi pa profitable, i.e., they're just expanding their renewable project pipeline. So, hindi lang si SPNEC nag-iisa na, ayan, no, parang negligible yung PE or negative or infinity yung PE, no? Pag sinabi mong NA, they cannot say ano yung PE kasi wala pang E, wala pang earnings, wala pang sales. So, it's just in the pipeline. Amongst the ones that are listed, halo-halo naman yung PE ratios from 14 to 22 to 237. Ang laki ng Clearway Energy. Di ko maintindihan bakit ang layo, 237 times PE. Next Era Energy is something that you can look at kasi that is the largest utility provider in US. That is also investing in all these renewables. Parang yan yung Meralco nila. But Meralco in terms of energy, sa renewable talaga yan. The largest as well. Yan, nasa 82 times PE, 72 times PE. So I'm showing to you that the market is willing, no, to pay very high in renewables. Very high PE ratios are being paid. Brookfield na yung pinaka-low PE dyan because they give a ton of dividends, no? Kung nagkataon that Brookfield was just a growth play, between 20 to 100 times PE yung binabayad or halos infinity PE yung binabayad, it tells you na concept stocks yung dating ng utilities renewable sector versus the regulated electric. Ito yung mga Meralco style, no? So may oil, may fossil fuels, halo-halo na yan. And with that, the average of them is nasa 20 times, 30 times, 20 times, 25 times. So ipi-PE ratio mo lang. When you do a PE ratio, classic yan. Okay, so let's say si ASLAG next year may revenues of about 2 billion pesos, may income ka of about 40%, 800 million. 800, ita-times mo lang ng 15 times PE. So lalabas ka ng nasa lugar na 8 billion, 8 to 10 billion. Sorry, ang laki ng PE ratio nun na. Teka, magkano ba income ni ASLAG? 1 billion siya so far. Tapos magdadagdag ka ng yung ito, no, yung 45 million next year. 13 over 18 megawatts times 150 million times 5 over 12. That's revenue. Sorry, revenue pa lang. Sorry. Ang revenue niya is nasa 150 to, no? 150 plus 150, 350. All right, sorry. 350 million times, although gawin natin yung full year sa 2023. Kasi yung 2022, 5 months lang yung deployed na assumption eh. Idiretso mo na sa very conservative na lang, 450 revenues, times mo na lang ng 0.4, no? times mo ng 15 times multiple, nasa 2,700 million, sumisipa ka ng 2.7 billion. So, ang ibig sabihin yan, ASLAG IPO na 3 billion, sumisipa ka ng 15 times PE today. PE ratio, I'm using the comfortable earnings ratio. Si SPNEC, walang PE ratio nga kasi walang zero earnings nga eh. Si ACEN, we will go to their presentation later. Check ko rin with you. Medyo malayo kasi yung ACEN, ang dami rin mga companies niyan na hindi pa profitable. So, but if you look at it, even from a world scale perspective, malaki yung range from about 11 to 20 to 30 to 40, sometimes hitting 100 times PE, no? So, the market, from a regulated perspective, if you average it out, all you know is if you're paying 15 times PE, mura yung margin of safety mo, considering the high growth, no, na hindi naman 38 megawatts forever, si ASLAG. Okay, what can we say about the Philippines? So in the Philippines, it says here na, I took a look at mga solar photovoltaic, mga industry comments. The DOE released the energy plan for the next 20 years. No, they're establishing a goal to reach 35% for power generation mix by 2030 and a 50% goal by 2040. In this development, it means that they have to increasingly deploy solar PV across the country. So the government itself is gonna approve so many solar projects. So yung 250 megawatts na production pipeline ni ASLAG, chances are the government will force them to really do it kasi the Department of Energy yan eh. The country is witnessing 1,000 megawatts of solar PV installations. It is observing growing demand from industrial and commercial segments. Ito yung sinasabi ko that pwede naman San Miguel yung magbayad yan or mga Henry C. Family, mga SM. Basta mga big factories kasi kailangan nila ng electricity niyan, which will positive impact the growth of solar energy market in the Philippines. It doesn't have to be the government. Kahit na yung mga industrial commercial segments, that's already big enough. Now, about the small-scale solar PVs, residential sector, this is hard because I'm not sure if magiging adopted talaga to, but if talaga naging adopted yan, it's also good because talaga nagde-decline yung PV, no? Yung technology ng solar panels, murang-mura over time. And then if you introduce net metering, masasell mo yung mga excess energy mo to the grid, to Meralco, good for you, kumita ka, nagkaroon ka ng solar power plant at home. Despite the net metering policies, however, the growth for PV installation was just 100 kilowatt hours. Sobrang late niyan since 2013. We're talking about just nothing. Kasi ang isang megawatt is 1,000 kilowatts. So, ibig sabihin, when you look at these numbers, yung residential sector, negligible. Huwag na natin pansinin, in other words. Kasi 100 kilowatts hour, parang katiting versus 1,000 megawatts na pwede mong i-grow to ng 10,000 megawatts, 20,000 megawatts, which ASEN, SPNEC, and ASLAG wants to do. Even AP, let's talk about Aboitiz Power. Hindi natin pwedeng kalimutan yung mga existing power generators that's also investing in renewable. Slow growth has been mainly due to admin, financial, regulatory hurdles, preventing small owners to install rooftop solar. In recent developments, 2021, SPNEC began first 50 megawatt unit for a 500 megawatt PV in Perananda, Philippines, deliver power by the grid in end of 2022. I've noticed though na from a production development cost standpoint, in the first 5 minutes, we talked about saan yung mas mura mag-produce. Oh my God, 1 hour na pa ako nagsasalita. Guys, sorry, ang bagal ko magkwento. Mataas yung cost ni SPNEC ng production, yung development. Kanina, we talked about 800 million pesos for that solar plant na 18 megawatts. Dito sumisipa double the cost. So, dun pa lang, makikita mo yung ROI, pangit na. AC Energy started construction of 283 megawatt solar farm in San Marcelino, Philippines. Solar farm will produce over 421 gigawatt of solar per year. Times lang niya by 250 days, ganyan. Over 365 days. Times certain, 300 over 365 ganun. Eliminating CO2 emissions annually. Modern Energy Management completed a 63 megawatt a solar project for ACEN. This project is the goal of 5,000 megawatts capacity by 2025 in the Philippines. Okay, so this is the Renewable Energy Program Consolidated RE Roadmap. if you look at this, ito yung mga ginagawa ng government natin, target to be reached, total 1,500 megawatts daw, 2025 to 2030. Target additional hydro, 5,000 megawatts. Target ocean power capacity, target wind capacity. So yan, existing RE natin 2010, 5,000 megawatts. They want it to become 15,000 times 3 lang yung objective nila by 2030. That's from the government. What are the policies of the government so far? Ito yung feed-in tariff. The incentive is the RA number 9513. Ito yung tinake advantage ni ASLAG noong 2015. They applied for it. They were selected, one of the first to get granted fixed tariff for 20 years, priority connection to the grid. The Renewable Energy Act 2008, ito yon. Ito yung nakuha niya, yung 8.69 kilowatt hour, no, peso per kilowatt hour. Installation target, initial target of 50 to 500 megawatts. So, I think it's being ERC, yung ERC, Energy Regulator Commission, nag-improve naman yan. So, it's positive nga for that. The Philippine government, as of 2015, has invested $7 billion. Amongst that $7 billion, 67% or 5 billion, no, chit sikaw, so 4.9 billion in the power sector of solar, resulting in 100,000 new jobs, manufacturing, constructing, installation. It has been able to quickly address alternative power, especially during climate issues like El Nino. Philippine Department of Energy has increased national solar capacity to 500 megawatts. Kulang yan, 2015. Now they're talking about 15,000 megawatts. Diba? Okay lang yun. Taasan na nila yung mga projections nila. According to Philippine authorities, further large-scale development of Philippine solar power are needed. Oo, yes. So far, the aim of the Duterte admin that is being continued by the Marcos admin is, so far we have installed 7,000 megawatts over the last 5 years. This has to grow another double or quadruple or triple pa. That's not enough, yung energy. DOE Alfonso Cusi said that promoting RE has been a big commitment, especially in the Paris climate change. Estimated 16 million people right now are off the grid. This includes approximately 6,000 schools. This demonstrates the potential for supplying solar power to the Philippines. Residents in off-grid areas are arranging to finance purchase solar panels, batteries. Okay, let's talk about yung mga listed news. Okay, SPNEC said that they want to be the largest solar project. Wanting and being is different, guys. Says here that the IPO was oversubscribed. Yes, naging ano yan, from 1 peso it went 2 pesos to 2 pesos something, no? It doubled, giving SPNEC, so from 8 billion, naging 15 to 16 billion pesos. The listing marks an ambitious step. Proceeds is to develop that 500 megawatt solar power plant. Phase 1A construction, lease for 2022, utilizing. Okay, so solar projects includes one in Batangas operating 63 megawatts in partnership with Korea Electric Power, one in Tarlac being expanded to 200 megawatt with Razon Prime Infra, so sa Tarlac. Another 2 in Batangas and Cavite to be fully operational by 2022. So I think si SPNEC, makikita natin yung profits niyan by 2022, either end of 2022 or next year. So kailangan natin makita kung magkano yung electricity generated by this 140 megawatts that Solar Philippines is saying, no? SPNEC. Yan yun, operation 63 plus 140. So yan yun. They've engaged with Abacus, no, as issue manager. So yan, titingnan mo yung 140 megawatts. 140 megawatts is now being paid by the market at 15 billion pesos. So yun, 140 megawatts, gamitin natin to ulit. Kung talagang 140 megawatts yan, sabihin natin 140 Okay, so nandito yon. Lumalaro ng, ito yung binayad ng market, nasa 2 for SPNEC. If may actual generation ng 140. No? So next year pa yan. So that's how SPNEC is being valued, I think, by the market. Binabayaran niya for next year's earnings, not this year's earnings. Okay, it's listed under supplemental listing for renewable energy. This is the way for the government to help mga RE companies to have a good financing ability. Okay, so you can see the market loved the IPO. You see that it was oversubscribed, attracted investors from all the country. Ayan, yan. Got Enrique Razon to invest 3.5 billion for 50% stake in 3 solar projects with a total stake of 340 megawatts. So yan yung binabayad din ng market, the growth, no, for that 500 megawatt plan in the next 5 to 10 years. They refer to their investments as a testament to Prime Infra's commitment to sustainability and growing your partnership with Solar Philippines. So ito yung corporate partnership. Pwede naman kasi guys, I think, for the ASLAG IPO, partner niya si, example since nagpa-partner naman si BPI sa loans, you can see that the Ayala, sa bagay kasi AC already has ASEN, but it's highly possible na since BPI and China Bank are very close to the family of the Nepomucenos, they might actually do corporate deals, no, for the projects na ginagawa ni SPNEC with Razon here. And that's how they raised another additional 10 billion pesos. If you'll notice, from December, 2 months after, they raised another 10 billion from 2.7, naging 12.7 through a rights issuance. That naman is for a new capacity play, 10 gigawatts naman. Almost tenfold increase from 500 megawatts to 1,000 megawatts to 10 gigawatts. That's 10,000 megawatts. Hindi ko ginamit yung mga ambitious na goals na to kasi we don't know talaga if this 10 billion pesos will be developing 10 gigawatts. Napakadami na I don't know talaga if talagang mahihit yung mga goal na yan. Either way, you'll see that this was funded via an asset for share swap, 2 pesos 50 cents per share. They issued 24 billion shares for companies na solar farm in Calatagan, Batangas, Concepcion, Tarlac, Cavite. So, in a way, si SPNEC, binenta na niya yung mga solar production ng mga to sa 20 companies that would generate supposedly 1 gigawatt to 10 gigawatt by 2025. So, parang finorward sell niya yung next 5 years of operational portfolio. Ito yung nakasulat 33 solar projects, operational capacity of 169 megawatts, capacity of 14,000 megawatts under development. We'll see kung gaano karaming megawatts to, no? Itong 20 companies. Sabi niya 1 gigawatt, 1,000 megawatt. So binenta niya for the next 5 years. Believe the greatest challenge, lack of demand, okay, Terra Solar, 10 gigawatts. Tapos made an unsolicited offer to Meralco to provide 850 megawatts of power for 20 years. So they're doing a lot of deals with the government already to ensure na all the production ways have a demand per se na kapalit, no? Acquiring stakes in 20 projects, they're valuing 60 billion pesos. The deal issued by 24 billion new shares. That's how it was paid for. Hindi ko sure kung talagang totoo naman na 60 billion pesos, 10 gigawatts of electricity. Alam mo bakit di ako masyado naniniwala? Hindi ko naman sinasabi na kasi 10 gigawatts, no? 10,000 megawatts yun. Tapos ang hinilang niya 60 billion pesos. Guys, kahit na yung 25 megawatts lang, no? Ito 10,000 megawatts. Yung isa 25 megawatts, yung recent lang, yung ASLAG 3, 18 megawatts, kinailangan na ng 800 million pesos. 'Di ba? So gawin natin ratio proportion na lang, 10,000 divided by 18, 550. Ang tagal naman. Yung development cost is na sobrang laki. Kulang yung 60 billion. Kailangan nito mangutang. Gets mo? Parang hindi ako naniniwala na 10,000 megawatts yung magagawa nila. Yung 60 billion, kulang yan. Either magagawa mo lang half of the cost. Hindi nga 440 divided by 60. Ilan yun? Hindi mo mako-complete Equal 60 divided by 440. Parang kulang. 13% completion ka lang. Magiging lang to, 1,300 lang yan. Yung production cost. Pero malamang may utang to. Hindi to 60 billion pesos na total project cost. Kulang Kulang to. Kailangan mo pa ng bank financing. So may mga questions ako na hindi masagot ng pagbabasa ng newspaper. Yun lang. Medyo it raises a few flags to me. Now, I looked at all the projects happening in the Philippines. I took a look at mga projects. Ito naman, totoo yung nangyayari sa Philippines. No? Ito yung potential capacity, installed capacity. You can see na sa Ilocos Norte, yan yung EDC na commercially operated na hindi na listed. Sa Burgos, yung solar power project phase 1, phase 2, ayan na yun, no? Maraming in-award yung government na solar projects. Yung iba nasa pre-development stage, malamang kailangan nila ng pera, kaya ang dami niyan. O, take a look, company name, Pangasinan Electric Cooperative, EEI Power, Finma Energy, PVC Nagpower, C-Squared Prime Commodities Corporation, Pilipinas Einstein Energy, Pilipinas Newton Energy, PVC Nag, ang dami. Andun, potential capacity, wala pang installed. Malamang kaya hindi yan na-install kasi kulang ng pondo. So let's talk about the ones that are funding the investments in the Philippines, considering ang dami namang solar projects. One of the largest now in the Philippines is ACEN. Listed siya by the Ayala Group. The company so far has 3,800 megawatts of capacity in the Philippines, Vietnam, Indonesia, India, Australia. So 5 countries na siya. They're already saying na about the 87% is all renewable. It is the largest listed platform in Southeast Asia with a goal of reaching 5,000 megawatts by just 5 years, 2025. Commitment to achieve a lot of net zero by emissions. Ito yung sinabi ni ASEN. You can see on their website, they earned 5 billion pesos, attributable capacity of 3,800 megawatts. So, and right now, si ASEN is trading at 180 billion pesos. So from a PE perspective, no, PE ratio lang, 30 times PE si ASEN, twice more expensive than ASLAG. Okay? So tingnan natin sabi ni ASEN, 5 billion pesos. Nasa 180 billion siya ngayon eh. Divide mo na lang by 5, 36 times siya, no? Double the price si ASLAG. So kung gagawan mo ng pricing, no? Pricing lang, yung 2 pesos ni ASLAG, kung same kay ASEN, 36 divided by 15 times 2, 4.8. I think a lot of people are looking at a target on ASEN of about 4 pesos. For, I don't know, tingin ko, maraming tao nagtitingin dyan. Percent RE share increase. Okay, ito yung ginawa ni ASEN. Ito yung thermal, ito yung RE. From 62 megawatts, nag 3,300 megawatts yan. Okay, from 2018 to 2022. 37% under construction, 63% are operational. That's how they got that 5 billion income. So ito kasi under construction. So pwede mo rin kasi gawin kay ASLAG, okay, may kino-construct akong 3, 4, 5, that is what the IPO proceeds are. Do you want me to PE ratio that constructed, kino-construct ko pa lang, di ba? So that will make your PE ratio of 2 pesos super cheap. Less than 15 times PE. Look at the financial highlights of ASEN. Maintenance outage, no? O yan, mga SLTech. Yan yung sinulat niya, 7.4 billion. EBITDA. Ang liliit ng revenues if you compare, no? 7.4 billion. The revenue growth is driven by new operating capacity. Everyone's looking at ASEN as a growth play, no? Ang dami pang revenues dito na kulang. Ang dami pa nitong kailangan i-grow. That means ang daming capacity na in-install, hindi pa operational. Look at the net income. Kaya yan magugulo pa yung PE ratios niyan because gulo-gulo pa rin yung pricing eh. Look at this. Philippine earnings decline due to the significantly higher cost of purchase power due to high Western prices. International earnings increased due to operating capacities new in India, Vietnam. Parent general improve. So, ang dami pa nilang ina-expand, tingnan mo, by region. International from 401 gigawatt hours, they're adding nag-62% international. Sa Philippines, lumiit pa. Ibig sabihin, maliit yung na-produce na electricity sa Pinas. Siguro dahil sa ulan-ulan. Nagkaroon ng typhoon eh. By technology, renewable and thermal, by country. Okay, let's look at this. Country-wise, maliit yung Philippines na generate. Ibig sabihin, kulang tayo ng sun. Yan din yung mga risk, no? Nagkaroon ng impact of Visayas plants curtailment, SLTech outage. ASEN generation portfolio, everyone's looking at this. I think the ones who wanted to really value it, look at it from a net attributable capacity, 3,800. 62% solar, 20% wind, geothermal is 4, coal 7, diesel 7, battery 1. Philippine assets in the world, in Philippines alone, you're already getting 1,500 megawatts. 1,000 megawatts is renewable. So 1 gigawatt C, ASEN. 81 megawatts, yan na yun. North Luzon Renewable, Pagudpud Wind, North Wind. So what happened here is that, in my view, ASEN has been buying all of these projects. Tapos, it's gonna take time, no? Maybe 3 years, 2 years before we see the actual earnings of ASEN from all these operational capacity of these renewable. Yan yun. Ang dami rin ng growth. A lot of the payment that people are paying right now in market cap is the growth play. And look at the pipeline that ASEN is promising. Aside from the 3.8 megawatts they currently have, they're looking at 18,000 megawatts in various stages of progress being developed organically and with partners. In India, it's 1.8. In Vietnam, it's 1.6. In Australia, it's 8.1. Philippines is 6.5. Ang laki ng growth na binabayad for ASEN because of all these pipelines. Of course, also the management expertise, the market trust, the record of Ayala's. You're seeing the sustainability is remaining to be the core of ASEN. Ayan. Yan. Tapos you'll see na ASEN infrastructure gave all the AC shareholders 3:1 just recently. No, you'll see that pinalaki nila 3 ASEN shares per 1 AC common share. For all the Ayala Corporation shareholders, you have 3 ASEN shares if you were an owner before the May record date. No. Nabigay na yon. What are the new releases of ASEN? ASEN has been discussing these. Marami siyang agreements. AC Energy, AC Endeavor, Green Core, Citicore Solar. Here, they are doing a lot of financing of a 43 megawatt solar power plant in Arayat, Mexico, Pampanga. The phase 2, the phase 1. So what's happening right now, the way I see it is, there's already solar projects pre-development stage that just needs financing. So what the ASEN does is they're extending a term loan facility, 2.3 billion pesos to finance, engineer, supply. So nagiging lahat ng mga watak-watak na islands of the Philippines na may mga solar projects, makikita mo yun eh. I'm gonna show to you. Tinignan ko, hinanap ko yan eh. Ang dami. Honestly, ang dami na watak-watak sa buong Pilipinas. The way I see it, ang ginagawa ni ASEN, kino-compile niya eh. Kino-compile niya ito, like yan, 20 pages. Lahat yan, puro solar project if you want to see. Puro Pilipinas to. Luzon, yan, kita mo, Ilocos Norte, yan, mga pre-development stage, Sarat Solar Project, at least ito commercial operated na by Bosung Solar Tech, pero ang liit, 1 megawatt lang yung installed. Ito, Hermosa Solar, commercially operated, 14.5 megawatts sa Bataan. Ano pa? Yung mga commercial operated, ito, Mariveles, Bataan, Next Gen Power Tech, 18 megawatts. Ito, 5, Morong Solar. Installed capacity, ito sa Zambales, puro pre-development stage. Yung Solar Philippines, puro pre-development. O, ito, 1,200 megawatts. Ito, isa pa, 1,200 megawatts, rooftop project. Ang daming pre-development stage. Ang dami dito pre-development. Konti yung mga installed. So I think lahat ng mga pre-development na yan, gagawa nila ng paraan to fund it. Ang dami. Ito, 1,200, SPNEC. Ito yun, no? Yung nasa Santa Rosa, Peñaranda, and San Leonardo. Ito yung sa Nueva Ecija. Ito yung SPNEC. O, yung dami, Mariveles. Ito, Bataan Solar Power Plant. Ang dami nito. Jobin SQM Inc. Ayan, 32 megawatts. Itong Morong Hermosa. Itong company na to. Ito. Yan yun. Pampanga, Solar Project. Ito yung ASLAG na sinasabi natin. Ito yun. Yan, Pampanga, Mexico. Ito yung binibili natin ngayon, yung commercially operating. 10 plus 13, 23. Ito, meron pa. Ito yung ito na yung meron si Solar Philippines sa Tarlac. 100 megawatts. Ito nag-ooperate na. So may financials yan. Yan yung pinasok, no, dun sa 10 billion pesos. Yan. I mean, it just tells you na ang daming pre-development stage na ifa-fund through a lot of IPOs. The way I see it, mukhang i-IPO itong mga to. Either bibilhin ng ASEN yan or mag-IPO yan mag-isa. Hindi ko sure. Pero ang dami daming pre-development stage, konti lang yung commercially operated. Ito, commercial. Ito, San Carlos Sun Power Inc. 59 megawatts sa Negros Occidental. Interesting. Actually, it's an interesting topic. Haba ako na magkwento. Ito pa yung bago kay ASEN, New England Solar Farm. 1.5 million metric tons. So yan yung mga, kasi ang dami niya, diba? Australia, Vietnam, India. One thing that I would also have to share when you are comparing is Aboitiz Power. Aboitiz Power is the largest provider of renewable energy. Even if wala siyang ganong solar, marami na rin siyang ginagawa. Tingnan ko lang. Pakita ko lang sa Aboitiz Power. I have a buy rating on Aboitiz as well. Look at it. From just their generation, nandito na yun. Energy generated, ito. So mostly sa hydropower siya. If you look at kay Aboitiz, small hydro 271 megawatt, large hydro 321, geothermal 290, coal 2005, oil 549, overall 4,000 megawatts. Tapos ito yun, sa lahat ng customer types, may residential, commercial, Davao Light, Visayan Electric. So yan, di ba? Lahat sa Cebu, Veco yata yung mga nasa Cebu. Average gross margin, nagkaroon ng feeder losses, average year-to-date LWAP, Luzon supply and demand situation continues to tighten. Here's how it looks for the next 5 years. Geothermal, ito yung oil-based, ito yung solar na yellow. So may kita mo lahat yan nag-grow. And Aboitiz is investing in all of them. I like Aboitiz. I discussed this as well. You can check in Awesome 10X. We recommended a buy at 20 pesos when Aboitiz Power was down last year. Tama ba? Nung 20, bago siya pinulak ng 37. Pero at 30 pesos, we continue to say a buy on it. Anyway, it's interesting. I wanted you to see kasi ito, we are working on 1,500 megawatts of disclosed projects. Luzon, Mindanao. Ayan o, kaya nga solar, 100 megawatts. Dinginin, Unit 2, 668 megawatts, 70% ownership. Ito, Mako Battery. So, I'm seeing that there is a lot of value play in Aboitiz. Tingnan mo to, priority development, Magat Battery, San Manuel Solar, Tarlac Solar, Olongapo Solar, Ramon Solar, Gamu Solar, Magat Floating Solar, Calatrava Solar. Aboitiz didn't write Aboitiz Solar Project. Hindi na nila spin off. If you buy Aboitiz Power, you're getting solar, water, hydro, geo, coal, lahat. In essence, ito yun, kaya nga solar power project, Magat Battery Energy Storage System, BESS, sila pa yung nauna, 20 megawatt. Importante yung BESS. Yun. So the key takeaway, sabi nga nila, we continue to strengthen our ESG standards. Guys, the way I see it, there are so many renewable opportunities in the Philippines. Kanina, pinag-usapan natin yung mga commercial scale. Sa US, marami rin. Yung residential solar battery, ito yung kapag nag-distribute ka na, if maayos yung residential. So far sa Philippines, in 2013, they talked about a laughable number. Ano yun? 100 kilowatt hour. Nothing yun. But if mag-PVs yung mga Pilipino, this is an example of what a customer would look like. For US, they were able to deploy cumulative solar installation of about 3,000 megawatts. Ito yung mga bahay-bahay lang. 500,000 customers yan. 500,000 bahay. Nakakuha sila ng 4.5 billion market cap. So, there are several ways for us to go solar. Pwedeng solar power plants or solar homes. The reason why I talked about all of these is that pag may net metering, you can store energy in the electrical grid and then send to the grid to be used after sunset. Ito yung ginawa na rules ni Philippines. Philippine milestone. Using a PV system in July 2013, net metering regulations were released by the Philippine Energy Regulatory Commission. This was the first mechanism prescribed by the Philippine Energy Law, passed in 2008. This now legalizes the whole market for solar rooftop panels below 100 kilowatt hour in areas that are on the grid in the Philippines. So the way I see it, marami tayong solutions for climate change. That's wonderful, no? So yung magiging sun run ng Pilipinas, maganda rin na mag-invest doon. Kaso hindi ko alam kung magli-list man sila, if ever. Pero I see, ang magiging solar na sun run sa Philippines would just import all of the solar panels in the world na tapos i-install lang niya sa bahay. Grabe, 1 hour 30 minutes ako nagsalita, guys. Sorry. Ang dami kong sinabi. Nang hinayang ako na hindi mag-usap about the renewable energy opportunities in the Philippines. Yeah, stop screen tayo. Guys, nandiyan pa ba kayo or baka hindi na kayo nakikinig? In summary, sa dami nating pinag-usapan, ang target price ko po is, okay, let's summarize. let's talk about long-term goals. Si ASEN, 18,000 megawatts. Si SPNEC, 500 to 10,000 megawatts. Mahirap to listen to 10,000 megawatts kasi um, malayo yung 10,000 eh. So dun muna tayo sa 500. ASLAG, they promised 250 megawatts. I think they can go 100 to 250 if you read through the prospectus. Si BEP, 69,000. Lahat yan goals. If you don't want to go for the goal, kasi pwedeng goal ko maging payat. Di naman ako magiging payat in the next 5 to 10 years. So, let's look at the actual generation. SPNEC looks to be mga 140 megawatts. In fairness, mga next year kakayanin. So yan, yan yung mga batayan. In terms of yung valuation, ganito siya. I-divide lang natin the current market cap versus the actual generation. Now, the key things that I'm looking at, the earnings. Amongst all these three companies listed in the Philippines, malabo yung earnings ng ASEN. Malabo yung earnings ng SPNEC. Si ASLAG, matino yung earnings. So pag sinabi niya 15 times PE ratio, this can even go 10 times or 12 times or 11 times because the earnings are gonna grow. Kasi from 38, expand ng 100, di ba? With the 345. That alone is enough to assume na kung nag-100 megawatts yan, yung 15 mo, magiging 5 times PE ratio. Isipin mo ganun. Kasi over time, 4-5 is funded na with this IPO. So yung net income mo per unit of megawatt, nagiging cheap talaga yung ASLAG. Hindi ko kailangan actually magbigay ng target price to you. But if you will just compare yung ASEN and ASLAG, yan na lang. Minimum target price, 4.8. Now, what if ASLAG follows the pattern of BEP naman? Brookfield Energy, wherein sa Brookfield, magbibigay siya ng dividend. Over time, it means na yung 2 pesos, babayaran ka niya ng mga 10 cents or 20 cents na makuha mo yung 2 pesos over 2 years, over 10 years. Possible din yun. If that were the case, mura pa rin si ASLAG versus BEP kasi titingnan mo yung nangyari kay BEP. Nag-times 3 siya over 10 years time. I.e., yung 2 pesos, ang target mo in 10 years time is 6 pesos with dividends. So, nasa 8 pesos yun. So, malayo yung mararating. I'm not hyping, just giving you what's happening in the world, no? Hindi naman tayo mag-hype ng 4 pesos or 8 pesos target without any proof. So, ganun. That's how I value it. That's how I will analyze it. Wow, thanks for all who listened kahit ng 1.5 hour. Saan kayo nakakuha ng PowerPoint ni ASEN Renewable Project? Nasa ASEN website. Pinuntahan ko yung investors. asenrenewables.com/investors #figures. Yan. Pumunta ako sa investors, lalala na dyan. Annual report, lalala. You can go to the first gen. By the way, yung first gen, chinek ko rin. It's trading today at 19 pesos, guys. Pero, there was supposed to be a tender offer at 33 pesos per share. I think that the renewable energy projects in the Philippines, relatively speaking, it's really interesting. Mura siya, si ASLAG. And then, even yung mga listed, like Aboitiz Power, First Gen, seems to me undervalued. Si AP na lang eh. Tingnan mo yung AP ngayon. Magkano AP Aboitiz Power? Oh, let's go to the stats. Sorry Magkano lang ba yung Aboitiz Power na PE ratio ngayon versus yung megawatts niya? Punta tayo sa PSEI kasi Aboitiz Power is in PSEI. AP, go to the technical shares, no? Para makita mo na yung market cap ni AP. Ayan, Aboitiz Power is trading at 228 billion pesos na market cap. Sorry, share screen ko pala. Sorry, share screen. Tinanggal ko yung share screen. Sorry, nahirapan ako talaga mag-multiply in English. Kaya nag-Hokkien ako. Chit-chit sikaw. Thanks for listening. Wait lang, na-lost ako. Okay, wealth sec tayo, no? Market cap, 230 billion peso si AP. Guys, si Aboitiz Power, pipeline yung project na 1,500 megawatts. And existing niya, nag-generate na siya ng income. Tingnan mo tingnan natin yung Brave browser. Saan yung Aboitiz Power? Punta natin yung Aboitiz Power na earnings na. Okay, hydro, hindi siya solar play, pero renewable energy naman pinag-uusapan natin. Kano income nito? Net income niya, first quarter 2022, nasa mga 2.8 billion. O sabihin na natin, times 4 na lang. Nasa mga 10, 11 billion, 12 billion. So, si AP, trading at about 20 plus times PE. Diba? So, hindi ko sinasabing sobrang mura, pero hindi valued properly yung 1,500 projects ni Aboitiz Power. That's upcoming. That's the growth play of Aboitiz. Parang zinero mo yung value ni Aboitiz na lahat ng solar plants niya na 1,500 megawatt. That could be additional 20 billion pesos or 30 billion pesos. So upside-wise, kung 200, magkano yun? 220 ngayon si Aboitiz. Meron kang nawawalang 30 to 40 billion, may 20% upside pa si Aboitiz Power. I mean, at 30 pesos. Kaya yung 36 na ginalaw ni Aboitiz, tansya ko, tama yun. Tama yung market analysis na nag-36 pesos si Aboitiz. So, any dips of Aboitiz is still a buy. Hindi man siya 10x move, but it's still sustainable. Plus, Aboitiz pays 1 peso dividend every year. So, 1.4, I think, 1.4. So, what do I buy in this market situation in the Philippines? Let's round it up. ASLAG, IPO target ko, mga 4.8, 4 pesos, 4 to 5 to 8. Pasensyahan, di ko alam kung mag-8 pesos yan, pero mga 4 to 8 pesos yung dating. In the next 10 years, ha? We're not talking about next 10 days. Mga 10 years time, kailangan mo ma-hit yung mga goals mo. 5 to 10 years timeline, they want to grow 100 to 250 megawatts. So nandun yan, lalaro ng 4 to 8 pesos yan. And then, if you ask me naman yung mga goals ni ACEN, nila SPNEC, okay naman sila on paper. But ACEN and SPNEC is more expensive today than ASLAG. So, I'm not saying na, ay, kalimutan mo na, sell ACEN, sell SPNEC, go ASLAG. Apples comparison lang. Kung ganun kataas si ACEN and SPNEC, dapat medyo umangat si ASLAG. And then, si AP, mura siya, possibly 20% growth. So lahat ng may ASEN shares, kung long-term shareholder ka, you're looking forward for that 18,000 megawatt na sinasabi niya. And if you are an ASEN shareholder, you're paying so far this PE ratio for this growth. Pre-nice in mo yan. No? So 7 pesos presyo mo ng ASEN, either number one, ang taas ng income sa operational facilities na ginawa na ni ACEN, di ba? Lahat ng mga dinedevelop niya, nag-operate. Yun, I would check kung gaano nga kalaki yung pipeline of earnings noon. But the market's already paying how much ngayon? Ito, 1.4. No? Ito yung ACEN eh. $5,400 million. That's 5.4 billion. Kasi nasa mga nearing 2 billion pesos at 180 billion si ano eh. Divide ko lang to by 52. Yeah, 280 billion pesos ngayon si ASEN eh. Yeah. So, yun. Tama ba? 280 billion pesos ba si ASEN ngayon? Bakit 5.4 billion dollars ako dito? 280 billion nga ba? Parang, chinek ko kanina eh. 280 billion pesos si ASEN. Oh, ayun no, 277. Oh, tama. 280 billion pesos si ASEN. Sipin mo, Aboitiz Power, 220 mil. Mura talaga si Aboitiz versus ASEN. Okay, so yun lang yung nakita ko. Aboitiz Power is cheaper than ASEN. ASEN is being paid for growth. SPNEC is being paid for growth. And if you're gonna pay for growth, might as well pay double the price for ASLAG. Sobrang cheap. Diba? Yun lang. Sige, thanks. Bye-bye. Ang tagal ko na mag-usap. Have a good day. Salamat. Bye-bye, guys.